Are you overwhelmed with email? Email overwhelms us all. I get nearly 200 emails a day, but I've developed some systems to help me stay at inbox zero on most days. So in this video, I'm going to give you 20 effective tips to help you dominate your email inbox. What's up, guys? Michael Laron here with Author Level Up here, helping you write world-class stories better and faster. And I create these writing videos because I believe that each of you has an inner Stephen King, and you just need help unlocking it. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and click that little bell, ding, 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 to get notifications every time I have a new writing video. And in this writing video, we're talking about email management. And this video is part of my series on organization, how to organize virtually every area of your writing life. And with email, it can sometimes be a challenge because, email runs our lives, whether we like it or not, right? It runs our lives personally, it runs our lives with the writing life. And so we're going to talk about some tips to help you with that. I get nearly 200 emails a day, so here's how I go through them. So tip number one is more of an awareness tip, and that is the more emails you send, the more emails you will get. So make a conscious effort that if you don't need to send an email for something, don't send an email for something, because chances are, if you do, you're going to get another email back, right? Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to want someone to reply to you. Tip number two is to pick the right email client. Super important, right? I mean, the right tool is half the battle. and I'm sorry, but AOL.com, probably not the best tool to help you manage your email. Gmail is one step better. It's a little bit bloated these days, but Gmail does have some things like snooze and advanced automation and AI that will help you write emails faster and things like that. But I actually like Airmail. It's a client for desktop, and it's available for Mac desktop as well as Mac iPhone. Sorry, can't talk today. But what I like about that is it has some features. It lets you snooze. It lets you move things to spam. It has some automation rules that kind of help you get through your emails super fast, and I like that. Now, when I'm at work, I use Outlook, and I think most people probably use Outlook. And the thing about Outlook is that it's actually a really good email client. There are a number of things that it does particularly well, and there's some things that you can do, like set rules that dictate what emails you even see in the first place. And so just learning how to use your email client that you pick, I think is super important, but picking a feature-rich email client that actually has features that you will use and features that will actually help you, I think are pretty important. Tip number three is that if you have multiple email accounts like I do, aggregate them into one place. So whatever email client you're using, aggregate them, feed those email inboxes into your client. So for example, I have a Michael Laron email, I have an Author Level Up email, I have an email for my law school stuff, I've got other email addresses that I use for various other things. And so I have all of those feed into Airmail so that when I'm looking at my inbox, I'm looking at all of my inboxes, and the emails are just color-coded for each email address. That saves time instead of having to check multiple email accounts. Tip number four is to do an email audit. So, in my time management videos, I talked about doing time management audits. But with an email audit, this is a little different. So for a period of an entire month, just take the last month that you had, write down the number of emails that you get and categorize them. So for example, if I were to do this, I would tally up the number of emails that I get from my fans who have read my books, emails that I get from my fans from Author Level Up. I would look at the emails that I get that are receipts of things that I buy, emails that I get that indicate that sales have come in, emails that I get from newsletters, so on and so forth, right? You know what those categories are, but write them down and tally them up. Where are the biggest percentages coming from? Are you getting an overwhelming amount of newsletters? Maybe it's time to unsubscribe. Are you getting an overwhelming amount of questions? And if you're getting a lot of questions on certain things, are all those questions, are they similar? Are they different? And you'd be surprised sometimes at what your data will tell you. So one of my favorite parts of my job is getting fan mail from you guys. I absolutely love when you guys take the time to email me to thank me, for writing a book, or to talk about an impact that one of my books or my videos or my podcasts have had on your lives, and that I just can't ever get enough of that, right? But one of the things that I was finding was I was getting a very common question on my fiction, and that is, what book do I start with? Which book do you recommend that I start with, Michael? I would like to read one of your books, but where do I start? And I was noticing that I was getting that question a lot. So I did some thinking on that, right? Because I don't want to stop people. I don't want to discourage people from emailing me, but at the same time, I don't want to keep sending the same email over and over again. So what I did was I created a tool on my site, and it's called Book Wizard. And what it does is it basically, through a series of just a couple of questions, it recommends one of my series for you. And it just takes, 10 seconds, and then boom, you get a book recommendation on what to read based on what your interests are. And so I created that tool, and I put it on all the pages on my website, all the major pages on my website. And then I noticed that those types of questions magically started to go away. And I reduced those types of questions in my email inbox, which saved me time, right? Which gives me more time to spend on other fan mail and other emails that are in my inbox. Tip number 6 is to use labels and folders for your email. A lot of people recommend this, and a lot of people have found ways to do this super successfully. I did this early on in my career, and I've learned that, folders and labels aren't necessarily for me, but everybody's different, right? Everybody has a different style when it comes to emails. If you're just one of those people that just lets all the emails come in, you maybe want to think about organizing those in some meaningful way. Tip number 6 is an important one, and it's one that I really struggle with, to be honest with you, and that is to stop using email as a storage bin. Email is not meant for storage, so I can't tell you how many times I used to think, okay, I'll just file this email away because I might need it someday. And then I never need it. I actually went back, to the times where I actually needed an email that I saved, and it was very, very few times. I mean, it was maybe 1 or 2 times out of the year where I actually had to go back and find an email in my writing that, I actually needed to use. And so I was like, well, if that's happening, then why am I saving all these emails, right? So just think about it like this. If there's a document that comes attached to an email that you need to save, find somewhere else to save that. Save that in a Dropbox or in Google Drive or on your desktop or somewhere else where you can easily access that later. Don't use your email to store things. And I think that if you do that, it's a minor mindset shift, but I think it will help you because you'll stop keeping all this crap in your email inbox. Tip number 7 is to archive and not delete. So no, I just told you that to not use email as a storage bin, to save your most important things elsewhere. But at the same time, there's a little bit of insurance, right? If you've got the ability to do it, archive and don't delete, because if you start deleting all your emails, they're probably, Murphy's Law applies, right? There's probably going to be a time when you do need something that you accidentally deleted. So I just archive everything and just forget about it. Tip number 8 is to color code your emails if you can. So this may not apply to all of you, but sometimes this can be helpful. So like at work, for example, I color code emails as they come in terms of priority. So red is emails from my boss, meaning those are the emails that are going to get addressed right away. And then orange is emails from my coworkers, right? My immediate team. So I can make sure to address those next. And then I've got yellow, which is emails from people that aren't my coworkers, but I have an important relationship with, right? And so I color code my emails according to urgency and the person that's sending it. So that way I can visually look at my inbox and know what needs to be done and know, okay, what's the stress level here? And maybe that's something that you could find a way to do in your own email inbox if your email client will allow it. Tip number 9 is to be strict about the way that you work your emails every time, right? So I talked about color coding. That's the way that I do it. I work my emails according to color and then according to urgency and importance. Maybe for you, that means we're working your emails first in, first out. So in order that you receive your emails. Whatever that is, just be consistent with it because I find that just helps me get through things faster. And then that way, when you get into a state of flow, it just acts as a force multiplier. Number 10 is to handle your most difficult emails first. I know. I personally don't even like doing this, but it's a tip. I think it was Mark Twain said that eat that frog before breakfast, and I forget what the quote is, but if you eat the frog before breakfast, then that's probably the most difficult thing you'll do all day, and that's absolutely true with email. So if you handle your most difficult emails first, that can sometimes help you as well. Tip number 11 is when you're completely buried in emails. And what do I say when I mean completely buried? Meaning you're looking at more emails than you've ever seen in a long time, right? Maybe you've just gone on vacation with your family, or maybe you've just had a book launch and all these emails are coming in. One time at work, I went on vacation and I came back and I had over 1,000 emails in my inbox. And what do you do? I mean, first instinct is to curl up in a ball and cry, and then when you pick yourself back up, what do you do, right? So I talked about how I color code my emails, and so what I like to do is just get the color out of my inbox, right? So get the colors, the emails from the most important people out of my inbox first, and then what do you do with all the emails that are left over, the non-colored emails, right? For example, a coworker once taught me something that I thought was a great tip that I've applied to my own writing in emails, is that what he would do is when he was looking at a lot of emails in his inbox, he would work the newest email, and then he would work the oldest email, and then he would work the newest email, and then the oldest, and the newest and the oldest. So that way he was simultaneously catching up and staying ahead at the same time. I always thought that was a great tip. And if you're looking at a whole lot of emails, that might be something that will come in handy for you. Tip number 12 is one that people just love to live. I mean, it's a modern convenience of technology, and that is preview message panes. So, you click on an email and then you can kind of preview it, or maybe you see email and then you see the first few lines of the email, before you open it. Turn that off. Here's the thing. When you see that, it is so easy to just read those first few lines in that email snippet and then not come back. Or what a lot of people will do is they will click on the email and then their eyes will wander over to the preview pane and they'll read the email, and then they'll go to the next email and then read the next email. Try not to do that. Try to deal with the email the moment you open it. And the reason for that is it's a psychological thing, right? So if you force yourself to open that email, then address the email, right? Don't do the whole preview thing. Just address it. And the easiest way to do that is to turn your preview pane off so that you force yourself to open the email. And once you've opened the email, force yourself to deal with it at that time. And dealing with emails immediately at the time that you open them happens to be tip number 13 as well. So I used to be guilty of this, right? I open up an email and then I read it and then I just think about it all day. And then, evening comes along and then I'll finally get around to typing up a reply, right? Don't do that, because then what happens is you allow the email too much power over your brain, too much power over your attention, because you're thinking about it all day. Or maybe there's an email that came in and you're so mad about it and you're just thinking about it. Or maybe there's an email that came in that was really great and you're just thinking about your response. It just makes you less effective, right? And then the email sits in your inbox. It sits unreplied. And it's just not productive. Someone said once, and I forget the exact quote, but it was so great. And it's, when you look at the amount of emails in your inbox, that's proportion to the amount of attention that's in your inbox as well. So if you've got 1,000 emails in your inbox, chances are that's where all of your attention is, right? But if you've got 0 emails in your inbox, you have no attention in your inbox. That is a beautiful thing. And the way to get there is to address emails immediately when you open them. Tip number 14 is to check your email inbox only a few times a day. So this means turning off notifications when you get emails on your desktop and on your phone. It means setting time to look at your emails only in the morning or only in the afternoon or only in the evening, because again, it comes to this attention, right? If you're constantly getting these notifications of emails from people, again, that hints to attention, right? If you're always getting these notifications and you're always in your email inbox, then email always has your attention, and you will feel like a hamster. You will feel like a hamster. It may not be like you may not feel like a hamster today, but there's going to be a point where you have all these emails and you're just going to be like, oh my God, why am I living in my email inbox? I hate it. I just absolutely hate it. And so what I found is the best way to address this is to check my email once in the morning. I check it once throughout the day, and then I check it once before I go to bed. And, it works. Tip number 15 is to avoid the snooze button. This is a super popular feature in a lot of email clients. Almost all of them offer it now. You know what I'm talking about, where an email comes in and you can click the snooze button and it'll disappear out of your inbox and it'll come back in an hour or come back in 3 days or something like that. And it's really cool when you first start using it, but it's actually not productive because all it's doing is kicking the can down the road, right? So what would your email productivity look like if you no longer hit the snooze button, right? We talk about all the time about how hitting the snooze button is a bad thing in our lives, right? I mean, when you're waking up in the morning, scientists have repeatedly told you, don't hit that snooze button. It's bad for your health. But what do? We hit the snooze button. So why do we have a snooze button on our email inbox? I guess it's the silliest thing. Tip number 16 is to use the delay send feature. This is a feature that some email clients offer where you can send an email now, but it won't be delivered until sometime in the future. And sometimes this helps when someone's emailing you and you just send them another email and then they send you an email back and then it becomes like this instant message session. Yeah, you want to avoid that as much as possible. And so sometimes the best way to do that is to just simply delay send the email so it doesn't send right away, and it'll send at a time where you know that person's not at their computer. I don't want to sound negative, but that is a very helpful feature sometimes. Tip number 17 is simple, and that's to use an email signature with your name and a thank you in it. So that way, when you're writing your email, the email signature populates automatically, and you don't have to hit enter, thank you, so on and so forth. It's just already there for you. Tip number 18 is kind of an odd tip, but just bear with me. If you're going to give your email address out to somebody, be accessible, right? I mean, if you're going to give your email address out and say, hey, email me, and someone emails you, take the time to actually email them. If you don't want to respond to those emails, then don't give your email address out. And why do I say that? The reason I say that is for a couple of reasons. First is with newsletters, right? So if you're not going to benefit from someone's newsletter, don't give your email address out. You'll get fewer emails. But secondly, if you're going to give an email address out to fans or something, and they take the time to email you and you don't have time to respond to them, or maybe you just really don't want to email your fans, and just don't give your email address out. You'll get fewer emails and everybody will be happy. Now, I recognize that sounds negative, but again, you'd be shocked at how many authors say, hey, I have a contact form on my website. Feel free to email me anytime. But then when people email them, they don't respond. Tip number 19 is to be proactive and preemptively answer some of your most common questions that you get as a writer on your contact form on your website. So for example, are there the most common questions that you get? Put those on your contact form. So say, right above your contact form, here are some of the most common questions I get, blah, 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 right? To help maybe preemptively head off some of those questions that you get commonly in your email inbox. I do this on authorlevelup.com. I link to my most popular videos or videos that I've done in response to some of the most popular questions that I get. There's nothing wrong with it. Just don't be a jerk about it. And tip number 20 is to enjoy the flow. Once you get into a rhythm and once you've got the tools and the techniques and the capacity to manage your email and hit that inbox zero on a regular basis, there's nothing like it. I'm telling you, it's a wonderful high, and it's an amazing accomplishment. So I want you to get there, and I hope that the tips in this video have helped. So remember that you can watch the rest of the videos in my organization series by clicking the YouTube card above my head or the link in the video description. Be sure to subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.